Our mission this split was to go to playoff, and we accomplished it, so it feels really good.
I was happy to be against Giants because I think we have never lost to them.
H2K is kinda our counter, and like obviously we haven't beat them yet.
Losing against H2K so many times give us an advantage because we get more experience against them than they get from us.
These playoffs, we want to get to the finals.
Getting Worlds is my own personal #1 priority. Everyone else on my team feels the same way.
I don't think the world's goal for them is any different from us winning and going as far as possible. It's our goal to do whatever it takes to win.
Hello and welcome to the European League Championship Series Summer Playoffs, broadcasting live around the world from our studio here in Berlin, Germany. As you can see, our fans are bringing the hype with Worlds 2015 on the line. They are ready to go, and so are we, and so are the Giants. Just walking inside the building just, well, a little while ago, enjoying some of the sun and preparing for the game, as well as H2K. They're sitting with their coach, probably listening attentively. I'm Evie Shogazapor here with James Stress O'Leary and Mitch Greppel-Voorspoels to take a look at the first quarterfinal matchup of summer 2015 between H2K and Giants Gaming. Well, first, let's pull up the bracket and take a look at what stands between these teams and getting, of course, to the summer finals in Stockholm, Sweden.
So 4 teams are in this round of the playoffs, and that leads us to 2 quarterfinals. The first today will be H2K going up against Giants Gaming. They're going to find out who is going to be playing up against Origin in the next round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and that's seeds 3 and 6 against each other. Then seeds 4 and 5, Unicorns of Love, are facing off against Rockcat. But the winner of that match has to face Fnatic. So is that truly a winner in my books? I'm not quite sure. We'll have to see how much they've prepared in the last few weeks and if they can rise to the level of beating their opponent now, and then let alone do well against Fnatic.
Do well against Fnatic. Maybe beating Fnatic. Hey, nothing is off the table here because teams here want to make it to Worlds. And one of the ways of making it to Worlds, of course, is by winning the entire thing here, the summer split and the summer playoffs, which of course might go in favor of Fnatic. But there's some other ways to qualify as well.
Yeah, obviously these teams are also looking at championship points, and think of teams like H2K and Unicorns of Love from last season. They have already racked up some of these points. Fnatic's in the lead with 90 points because they won Spring Split. But if they win playoffs right now, they will go straight to Worlds. And then we're looking at the second places team. So Unicorns of Love, they want to get as many championship points, or H2K as well. And perhaps they can get that second seed that way to go to Worlds.
Even if you aren't at the top of the championship points ladder, though, banking points along this split is going to be beneficial for you, because the remaining 4 teams then will go into the regional qualifiers. They'll have to run a gauntlet per se to try and get yourselves that 3rd and final spot to Worlds.
Yeah, and obviously after everything is said and done, then the 5th seed places off against the 6th seed. Winner places the 4th seed. Winner places the 3rd seed eventually for that final spot to Worlds. However, that means, if we did our math right, and we did, that means 3 out of 6 teams right now in playoffs will go to Worlds. So no outsider teams, no team that finished 7th this split, for example. So the 6 teams that you will see now in the next few weeks, 3 of them will make it to Worlds, and that's either a good or perhaps a slightly not so good thing for Europe. But we'll have to see how well they've upgraded their play, because Worlds will be looking fierce.
Yeah, it will. Well, we'll see how it plays out just at the brink of the playoffs here, but teams around the globe are beginning to qualify as well. And we'd like to congratulate the SK Telecom T1 from the LCK and the LMS's AHQ Esports Club on being the first 2 teams to secure a seat at this year's championship. But there's Worlds races going on all around the world.
Absolutely. So many games of League of Legends today have so much on the line, specifically with the international wildcard qualifiers. 2 teams have already locked that in. That's the LJL's Detonation Focus Me and the OPL's Chiefs have locked in their spot in the international wildcard qualifier.
Yeah, a lot of action going on, but it's all beginning here. The playoff race with the goal of Worlds in mind. H2K and Giants will be going up against each other today in the LCS's first playoff match of the summer. And immediately following that best of 5, we're going to hand things over to our friends in North America for their first quarterfinal between Team Impulse and Team Dignitas. Now, with Worlds just a few weeks away, we wanted to pick your brain, get on Twitter and tell us which position do you think will have the biggest impact in the playoffs and why? Grandpa.
I'm not necessarily in terms of impact, but I'm keeping my eye on jungle because I really want to know how these new jungle picks that have emerged in patch 5.14 will come out, because at least in Italy are played a lot more right now. In solo queue, they're pretty much perma-banned in the challenger region. Before this patch, we didn't really see them. You know, Gragas and Rek'Sai were still tier 1. We'll touch on that a little later in this broadcast as well. So for me, it's just which junglers of these teams have picked up new champions, mastered them, and found ways to, you know, level up the strategic game and see how they use them.
Well, we will see. We'd love to know what you guys think as well. Tweet at LL Esports. You know the drill. Use that hashtag LCS, and we will be discussing those answers here on the desk in the course of the day. For now, it's time for action. The match at hand between the 3rd seed H2K and the 6th seed Giants. H2K leads the head-to-head. I don't know who it was that. I think we never lost to Giants. Well, 7-0 is actually the competitive record for those two teams, and the history of those two teams have very much improved this split after making a roster change, yet in the last couple of weeks it wasn't going that well for neither.
Yeah, both these teams have across the splits, you know, made a roster change. H2K swapped out Voidal for Kasing. He came in and he had the Kasing effect, you know, very fantastic performance. Up until recently, that worked fantastic for H2K. They hit a bit of a slump at the end, you know, it wasn't all that, you know, macro level shot calling wasn't all going that great, but at the same time, Giants, they brought in Godfred and he was doing fantastic. For the first time, we saw Giants with somewhat of an idea of what they were doing other than trying to let Pepinero carry. However, in lane swaps, they still show that they had a lot to learn, and that when H2K is at their peak is their main strength.
However, I think one of kind of the almost worrying things now as we're entering playoffs is for both of these teams, the similarity is they only pick 2 wins each up in the last 3 weeks of play. So certainly both of them have seemed to be on a downtrend coming into playoffs. Have they fixed that in the week off?
We will see. We'll start by taking a closer look at H2K. They will be starting on the blue side of the Rift today for Game 1. Odoamne, Lulex, Ryu, Hjarnan, Kasing, and their coach Prolly, who they were talking to just a few minutes ago. Well, I said that, well, when they play good, they play incredibly crisp. High-level strategic play, getting in there, getting those advantages. The last couple of weeks, not so much have been trailing behind. And maybe it was a wake-up call, and we also can't forget that they had more time to prepare for these matches than they've had for any of the others to get out of that slump.
Honestly, due to the fantastic start that H2K had, you know, 9-3 in weeks 1 to 6, then that little slump that Stress just pointed out, you know, 2-4 in the last 2 weeks, might not be all that bad. For the first time, they have to learn what it is to lose a couple times in a row, negative morale, see if they can fix that, and that's what you need, that mental dexterity, because you're going into a best of 5 right now. It's games back-to-back. It's no longer just best of 1 and brush it off. And that may have been good for them. And as you said, you know, 2 weeks to prepare with Prolly there. He's been used to, you know, these multiple weeks preparations because he's, you know, like me, played in a couple of relegations in his career. So he knows what it is to build up for this very hyped match. And hopefully he can bring that to the table for H2K.
I think it's a difficult ask, though, because although, yes, they have had a week off to prepare, hopefully that settled themselves, but H2K historically, whenever they've been dealt a little bit of a tough card, they have struggled sometimes to get back on the horse, get back onto winning ways. The loss against Fnatic kind of was a bit of a re-emergence of that. If they get ahead in this series, hopefully that'll never creep in, but a loss in maybe Game 1 or Game 2 could look to, you know, reform that from H2K.
We will see. Looking aside from emotions and tilt mechanics here and there, let's look rationally at the lane matchups. Where do you think that it could really shift in one or the other team's favor, Crepo?
I think H2K has a massive advantage in the bot lane. I think Kasing is a fantastic player and better than Godfred. Wider champion pool, and I think Hjarnan is well ahead of Audrey, so in a straight-up 2v2, they should be able to come out on top. In addition to that, should the Giants choose to lane swap away, then they put their man Whirlip behind, and also they're just not that good in lane swaps.
I have to echo all of the sentiments that Crepo just made, if I'm honest, and that's not the only area on the map that there is kind of one of these matchups that we're looking at. Top lane is going to be a high focus in this game, I feel, on almost an individual level, but team play as well, because these two top laners are very, very different. You can see some of their stats up on the screen there. You can see Whirlip tends to get a better lead earlier in the lane, but Odoamne really makes his presence felt when it comes to using teleport to get into other lanes early, assist his team, and that's reflected in the 15-minute KDA that he has. Odoamne normally very high up, whereas Whirlip doesn't tend to get the teleport working for himself. He ends up dying a fair amount compared to Odoamne in this early game.
That's what you see, like how can these top laners make the impact for those kills? Yes, Whirlip had that Galio game where he was taken to the front, but usually it's Odoamne that has these roams on Rumble. I still remember distinctly where he roamed to mid as Rumble, and he was going seemingly into a 2 against 4, but somehow came on top because he knows his strengths when he's ahead. However, he does like getting caught when he's behind too. So that maybe could play into the Giants' favor.
We will see. And speaking of Giants and Werlip, let's turn to the red side and look at their lineup with a cool soundtrack. Werlip, Frederick, Pepinero, Adri, Godfred, and their coach Lothar. As said, whatever happens here, Giants were in the promotion tournament in the spring split. They stated that they wanted to make it to playoffs. I did hear Adri saying in one of the features, I also want to make it to Worlds. Now it seems we just want to win as much as possible. What is that? Yeah.
Initially, it went well for the Giants, and yeah, when you're 4-0 and all, or 4-1 or whatever the score was they had in the earlier season, then you can start saying, yeah, we want to make it to Worlds, but they took a bit of a dip at the end of the season.
Yeah, and if you look at their stats as well, on average down 2,000 gold at the 20-minute mark, and they've actually been behind at the 20-minute mark in 12 out of their 19 games. That is ideally not the position you want to be in, and they seem to drop the ball getting to late game, but they get pushed into late game more.
Right, and they're not going to get pushed into late game, they're just going to get pushed in if H2K come back as to how we've known H2K. Remember, right the way back at the beginning of the season, we talked about how good H2K were when it gets to that 20-minute mark. However, there could be one roadblock for H2K, and that could be in the middle lane when it comes to Pepinero up against Ryu in that middle lane matchup. You know, normally, we'll see Pepinero get a lot of freedom when it comes to farming in the middle lane, and you can see he's actually the highest farm at the 20-minute mark for all mid laners. Ryu, comparatively, is the lowest for mid laners, but as always, the stats don't tell the entire story behind this.
Yeah, we'll just have to see how well Pepinero can get that CS advantage, and if he can translate that into advantages across the map. Can he make those picks, win those fights for Giants? Because otherwise, Ryu will do his signature Ryu style, where yes, he may lose CS, but he will be roaming. He'll be down in the bottom lane. H2K is notorious for swapping their bot lane to the mid lane. So we'll need to get Pepinero rolling to basically thwart that. We need Pepinero rolling, and we need Werlip to stop the bleeding from the early to mid game. Giants can't get behind, and then maybe we'll see a good game, because otherwise, if H2K is back to their peak, their 10 to 20 minute spike around objectives and just playing the map will be enough to crush Giants.
Yeah, from everything we've looked at, H2K definitely the favorite in this matchup, so we'll see what happens. And with so many close matchups in today's games, we want to take a look at the champion picks that could give one side or the other an edge, and you guys took a closer look at that.
Yeah, we looked at some of the as we hear a weird noise there in the background.
I think it was Trevor.
Trevor's like, yeah, weird picks. Anyways, back to the thing. Now we're at the end of the season, so what we can do is look back towards what's happened across the season. Different patches came and went, and we took a look at the mid lane and the jungle matchups and see what's changed over time. And first off, we're going to have the mid lane. Initially coming into the split, we have LeBlanc coming up, Cassiopeia, but they both kind of died down immediately. You see the rise of Shurima, and then the fall of the Emperor, right, when he got nerfed a little bit. And that, at the same time, was the resurgence of the poke meta game, Jason Varus staple picks. But I do like that Victor kind of crept in there as a control mage, and now with the addition of, for example, Nuketook playing Yasuo, perhaps it has opened up for multiple new picks and counter picks in the mid lane, because we've been off the grid for 2 weeks here in the European LCS, so perhaps we'll see something else.
Certainly a lot of variation when you look at mid lane trends. On the other side of things, though, we took a look at jungle, as you alluded to. Not a lot of variation, or at least not so much when it comes to the top two. Not yet. You can see Rek'Sai Gragas bounced around. I think every region in the world had this trend. Interestingly, if we were to put 514 on there already, we'd be expecting Elise to be in the next column, right at the top. That's what we're expecting coming into this week. But I know that Nidalee, perhaps a couple of other champions are kind of mixing around there in the jungle meta as well.
Yeah, we will see if Elise makes her appearance a couple of times in this series already. And as we head to the casters for the first in this 5-game set, let's hear from Oduwamne on his quarterfinal matchup.
We play them a lot, even in Challenger Series and Promotion Tournament and everything, and so far we're like 7-0. Every time we faced them, it wasn't really hard for us to just impose our gameplay and come out with the win against them.
And hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Trevor Quick Shot Henry, joined by the ever-hot Martin DeFischer as H2K and Giants load onto the Rift for the very first quarterfinal of the 2015 Summer Split. Just before we get things started, we would like to say get well soon to our friend Devin Pyrotechnics Young. He's currently under the weather. He's not going to be able to join us on the caster desk this week, so I'll be running the play-by-play as we get into our first quarterfinal.
Yeah, let's see his side selections. H2K, they have decided to pick blue side in Game 1 and Game 5, and then red side in Game 3, because they only could choose obviously those 3 games. Giants, on the other hand, chosen red side for all their games. So we're going to have 4 games of H2K on the blue side.
Right.
And then 1 game for H2K on the red side, which will be Game 3.
Right, so picks and bans already starting the fish show, and with Giants on the red side. Giants as a team...
How surprising, though.
I know, but they don't necessarily have the strongest of first pick champion pool. So being a red side could benefit them having 2 picks across multiple games.
Yeah, I think this is one of the reasons we see Giants decide to go on red side, because as you mentioned here, Giants as a team has not really favored first pick and Kalista too often because Adri is not the main carry on the team. And it could be difficult there, you know, Kalista was left open, they didn't want to take it, gave it 2 strong picks over to second rotation. Same for Ryze in the top lane. It's not been the strongest pick for Worlip. So I think that's why they're happy taking red side, saying we get first of all, a last pick for either Pepinero or Worlip, and then we take 2 of the strong picks in the first rotation because there's nothing we really want that badly as a single first pick. Also, Jax Morgana, we're expecting that for quite a lot of games. H2K banning that against him, and just about to talk about this Thresh with the Morgana ban, and then he locks it in because this champion would be the go-to option for Godfred. First of all, to take it away from Kasing. Second of all, because Giants rely a lot on having Godfred on a champion where he can create some picks. That is the Thresh. We know it's a main pick for Kasing. So I'm not really surprised to see it as a first pick, even though it's not considered normally, you know, the first pick worthy champions.
Well, for Kasing, 7 games played, 6-1 on that Thresh, Deficio. You mentioned the Jax and the Morgana bans. They are the most banned champions against Giants. This is the 17th Jax ban in 20 games in summer. So that's the regular 18 split games, the tiebreaker, and now the first in this best of 5.
Now, let's keep talking about what Giants wants to build, because we just mentioned how they would get 2 picks. Elise has been banned away. That means Nidalee, which a lot of people will consider tier 1 with the Elise at the moment. Obviously, is going over to Giants. This is what H2K is sacrificing with this pick, but Gragas and Rek'Sai are still good jungle choices. Echo is up there as well. There are a lot of great junglers at the moment. You don't necessarily have to ban them away, except for maybe the Elise. Nidalee, Corki though. Giants as a team, 7 out of 8 games they have won in the summer split has been with a poke composition, or at least with Pepinero on a poke champion, and often Adri as a support in that case, either supporting with poke or just tower damage. Corki will fit in perfectly, he needs it. To also start avoiding some of these dives H2K will unleash on. Okay, Lee Sin, despite so many other great junglers being available.
And that's the first Lee Sin of the split for Lulex. We are playing on patch 5.1.4 as a reminder to everybody at home, so it's 1 patch behind live. Hyanan will get his hands on Tristana, only the 2nd time this split. And for H2K, already got some disengage, they've got some peel and protection for this Tristana.
Well,
let's see how their solo laners add out in this next round.
Yeah, the thing about Lee Sin is finally he's back in a meta where he can obviously go Warrior Enchant and try and match some of these early junglers here. We have seen a few Lee Sin players try Cinderhulk, you know, a few patches ago to try and match a bit of the scaling of like Rek'Sai Gragas. It didn't work out too well. You didn't have enough of a late game presence simply. Now you can go Warrior Enchant because there's more early game junglers and you can try and match the Nidalee. So Lulex definitely looking to track Frederick around here and try and stop the possible early pressure we can get from Nidalee.
And that'll be a little bit of a change in style for Giants Gaming. We heard the analyst is talking about how Giants are behind 12 out of their 19 games by 20 minutes. And you can't really afford to do it. You shouldn't be in that position with a Nidalee and a Corki. But that's a lot of magic damage on the side of Giants. We'll see what Worlip's going to run up in that top lane to round out the comp.
Yeah, standard though for Giants, except for the fact Pepinero is not on a necessary like full poke champ. Instead, the reason he's locking in Victor is it's so safe you can pick it blind, meaning Worlip could get the last pick to see what was being played up top lane. It is the Shen for Odo Amna, obviously a champion he used against Giants in week 8 and was fantastic. H2K simply just set up tower dives after dives against Archery because he was on a Jinx. Changes though from Giants, they've adapted to champ select here. You have mobility now in your AD carry, you have good early wave clear from it, especially once you hit level 6. You have poke coming in. We have this very traditional 1-4 setup for Giants, where we have the Trundle in the top lane split pushing, that is Worlip, and then you have the other 4 members together as a unit around objectives and poking down sieging towers.
If there was ever a Giants-style team composition, it is this. Last time we saw that Trundle was with Yellow Star playing it in the support role to help Fnatic go 18-0. May have inspired Worlip. May not. We will find out. This is a reminder, it's 5-14. It's the first time we're seeing LCS teams playing on this patch.
Yeah.
Challenge has been on it all week, though.
And LCK has also been playing 5-14. We've seen a lot of Elise over there. Otherwise, still a lot of the same champions, honestly.
A lot of the same champions. With picks and bans lock in, it's time to kick off the 2015 European LCS Summer Playoffs.
being the underdog really helps. That lets you play like more relaxed and without so much pressure.
I don't think we've ever underestimated them. We've still given our best for every game.
H2K is a team that when you give them an early lead, they will snowball it.
The way we practice coming into playoffs is gonna be a lot easier for us to overcome any challenge.
It's a really hard game against H2K for sure.
It's time for the quarterfinals in the European LCS Summer Split. 3rd seed H2K taking on the 6th seed Giants. Giants have not beaten H2K a single time in the last 7 times they played. Will this be the series that Giants turns their fortunes around and tries to make a bid for the World Championships?
Well, one of the main reasons Giants have lost to H2K in the past is that they simply cannot avoid falling behind in the early to mid game. Adri just said if you fall behind to H2K, they are fantastic at snowballing that lead. Giants, we saw from the analyst desk, on average at 20 minutes is down 2,000 gold. That is not acceptable if you want to beat H2K. Obviously, very standard from them as well. We didn't talk too much about the composition in Champ Select. You have the Shen, the fantastic early to mid game, the Ari to create the picks from Ryu. His champion pool is a little bit different from what we see from certain other mid laners. He really likes that Ari, where he can have an impact, he can roam around the map. Yanin on the new pick, we can save the Tristana, even though it's not new at all. I want to see how he does into the 2v2 lane of Janna Corki, because I personally don't like Tristana that much into Janna. I think it's super annoying with the early trade due to the shield. But it's not a terrible lane at all.
Well, Hyonin and Kasing, one of the better duo lanes here in Europe, consistently stepping up and helping to carry H2K. But I do want to mention that some of the weaknesses that we had seen from Giants' drafting phase over the last few weeks seems to be a little more together this game.
They definitely learned from last time where they faced H2K, where it was like first pick Rise, then you went for Jinx later on, an extremely immobile composition, versus H2K, who shines at applying map pressure in the mid game. They often like to run these compositions with Shen, with Alistar, early aggressive junglers where you can set up tower dives with multiple members coming down. If you're sitting on a Jinx on the tower, 15 minutes in and 4 guys walked in to kill you, there's nothing you can do. Notice here the Whirlip taking the red buff for himself, sharing XP with Frederick. Also, notice how Whirlip is often tanking a lot of the damage, because he can always go back to base anyway, and therefore you save a potion on your jungler and he can be more healthy for the first gank.
And while that's going on, the 2 energy users from H2K up in the top half, we catch a glimpse of Godfred and Adri. They are alone in the bottom lane. H2K, their duo lane is up top, so you can see a contrast in the stats for supports. Both supports also coming in to improve both H2K and Giants' abilities throughout the 2015 season.
So kind of surprising they gave Whirlip the red buff, seeing as it is a lane swap and he's not really going to be able to jump up into this lane at this point and use it. By the time this tower will go down and he has a chance to go top, the red buff will be gone. Unless obviously he didn't even mean to take it, he just ended up last hitting it. He's down the bottom lane.
It looked
chopped it well, then definitely on purpose. Anyway, what normally happens here in Europe in terms of lane swaps is you shove it fast into the tower while your jungler is still farming, because you don't need them. It's just 3 guys necessary to push it in or even dive if the guy is waiting. And then you want to leave the wave here for your top laner. So once tower goes down, you want to make sure Odamne has a wave that's pushing back towards his tower. So he's now somewhat frozen and he gets a lot of farm, but you see Giants are doing exactly the same on the bottom side. Only difference is they give the entire amount of gold from tower to Whirlip on his own. So they're not putting any of the top laners in a bad situation where they suddenly get denied a lot of CS. And you try and make sure they can catch up, seeing as they were falling behind the first few minutes.
Oh, Whirlip, small advantage thanks to the buff. A little bit of extra gold. We'll see whether or not Whirlip can translate that early help into split pushing power. Because Trundle is an absolute menace if he can get himself towards a Blazing King or a Tiamat. There's options you can go from the last times you've seen Trundle top.
Now we always got to look at how fast did they kill the tower and swap the lanes around, because that can always prompt a potential dive with the teleport from either top laners. Bottom lane right now, Whirlip is expecting multiple members to show up, so he already got some backup from Frederick and Godfred, one-on-one in the top lane, as well between both Adri and Odo Amna here. So no dive being set up from either side. Normally you want your top lane then to try and either shove out the wave. And then when your AD carry showed up against the enemy top lane, you push them into tower and you just dive him. Like TP up on a minion, just dive him instantly. And therefore, that will create a lead. Lulix though looking for Frederick.
He's not going to be able to get the
into the
grab.
wall.
Frederick is going to fail the pounce, forced to flash. Lulix Sonic Wave was 2.5 seconds from completion, so not able to chase up. But an early advantage over Frederick, and that's going to be a good confidence boost for Lulix and H2K.
This is why he picked the Lee Sin. He want to try and match what Nidalee can do in the early game. He want to try and find him, get the deep wards going. H2K always a team playing a lot around vision control. So going side stone, of course, on the Lee Sin. We don't always see that on some of the early junglers. I mean, Nidalee almost never goes for a side stone. Now let's see though. Odomne is getting a lot of free farm up here. What Giants is trying to do is say our mid-game spike in terms of sieging and in terms of fighting around dragons can be very strong if Adri gets a good lead. If he gets to a fast 24s, Corki as well scales really well with levels. So they're giving him the one-on-one lane. Same goes for Odomne though, and Shen is the same. You want to get that level 6.
Well, Deficio, I do want to step back and remember the last time Adri played Corki, a couple of weeks back against Roccat. And let's just say those aggressive Valkyries into the enemy team did not help Giants or Adri's cause. So yes, this is a great start. He's got advantage over Hyonin already. We know the power spike of a mid-game Triforce Corki, but Adri has to have been working on his position during the couple of weeks off and his decision-making so that the rest of the Giants team composition can get the time to poke and find the opportunities to secure dragons or towers.
Adri has never been the main carry for Giants, but they still need him to have an impact in these fights here, especially once you start reaching the late game where the AD carries become stronger and stronger for himself. This game though, and the fact he's on Corki, I really like it. I think it's perfect for him. Give him mid-game impact, give him poke, and give him a safe champion, where he can also sit in a wave clear, which can allow Godfred and Frederick then to roam together and try and fight some of this vision control coming for H2K. Now, they've swapped back to standard lanes. Notice here how top lane is going to be shoved in. That gives an easy back for Odomne and potentially can look for a play, because he's level 6. Giants have really messed up here how they wanted to play the swap after. They could have sent the Trundle top way earlier, kept him bottom lane, because they wanted to get the farm on Adri and the experience. So now he's level 4 inside of Whirlip. He's not going to do anything if Odomne decides to make a play on the bottom side.
So lots of pressure on Whirlip now to farm his way back into this game. Odomne is trying to get this wave reset, pushing it actually very aggressively with limited vision on the top half of the map. We did see Pepinero backed a moment or two ago. Upgraded that Hex Core. Ryu's doing a similar scenario. We've not touched on those mid laners yet at all, Deficio. But Ryu has already built himself up a 20 CS lead. Well, 18. At 7.5 minutes. Just purely from the laning phase.
Great start from him, and not what we normally see from Pepinero. Such a fantastic laner. Victor, more than fine in this matchup as well, especially in the early stages where there's not really any kill pressure from the Ahri pre-level 6, and yet, poor start from Pepinero. As you mentioned yourself, no action. Like, it's not like he's been pushed out by the jungle or anything. Sit up bottom lane, Adri's on his own at the moment.
Flay doesn't connect, but the death sentence does! Explosive charge ticking away. That's a flash forward from Adri trying to get away. Ignite continues to tick. Kasing's going to trade back and forth. They got the heal and the flash in exchange for Ignite. Ryu is going in on Pepinero, going to sidestep that gravity field. The Spirit Rush doesn't work out. So, explosive, but nobody's down yet.
So H2K making 2 plays in the lanes where Shen is not. So they had the ulti in case. Whirlip is still sitting up top here near his own tower, just trying to catch up in farm. Did hit level 6 on his own. Let's see if H2K wants to make a play. For now, it looks like they're happy, saying, you know what, we got a flash. Let's reset the waves a little bit again. You can see the wave down bottom here from Hyonin. It's going to take a while before it hits Adri's side. You can even just freeze. You Tristana, every time you last
it's difficult.
You kind of see multiple minions die. You're like, ah, damn it.
Well, eventually this will be pushing back for Hyonin. Grabbed himself that pickaxe and longsword. Wave's already basically cleared. That explosive charge makes life ever so difficult. And for Whirlip, he also got the damage route for his first item, pickaxe as well. He got the Wraith.
So this is one of the reasons I think Trundle is a smart pick into Shen. If you just look one-on-one, like just the 2 champions against each other. One, it's very standard to go for Tiamat, Hydra, You can even go Blade second if you want. Let's see bottom lane first, though.
Well,
Adri.
Yanan has actually flashed forward. He's delivered himself a Shen. Adri's in trouble. He's going to go down. Kasing gets the assist with the shield as well.
Everyone trying to get it. Lulex just slightly too late with the shield. But nice little setup. The wave was pushed all the way in towards H2K. So Adri overextending, and this is the joy of Shen. You TP down one side, you just TP back to your own lane, and you keep picking up the farm. But the Trundle pick still, you go for Tiamat, Hydra. You can even go Blade if you want to just purely focus on one-on-oneing. So you get wave clear. You have fantastic sustain. Shen will never be able to kill you one-on-one, and you just keep bullying him. And this is the Whirlip style. He's the 1 versus 1 top laner. Always wants to be on a split pusher, and he's going to win this war. It's about H2K and the rest of the team then to beat Giants.
So for Giants, it's a slight departure from their summer split, sort of poke strategy. But this is still showing some growth. Giants from
I'd say there's poke enough.
2015.
There's poke enough.
There's poke enough. Oh, fair enough. But okay, let me rephrase that. They were playing around Pep and Nero's poke. That was the focus. Now the poke is coming from jungle and AD carry. And we'll see whether or not Frederick and Audrey can land it. Right now, Frederick's got an uncontested dragon, taking advantage of H2K's back timing after securing first blood, and an easily secure dragon at almost 11 minutes.
Yeah, so after we saw H2K invest TP, ulti, everything onto that 1 kill. Good response from Giants. Again, it's about Whirlip. How fast can he scale up? Got the Tiamat now. Remember, Shen is gonna stack almost just pure defensive stats, maybe add in the Trinity Force, and that's about it. Rest is just tanky stats. Trundle is gonna have a fantastic day stealing that away.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot Odamne will be able to do on his own.
Talking about investment though, Giants invested quite a lot into getting Adri ahead. He had a CS advantage over Hyanan. But thanks to the way the lanes have played out over the last few minutes and that teleport gank, it is now Hyanan that had the first blood gold and has a small advantage. And you can see how defensive Adri and Godfred were playing in lane. Sitting way back, waiting for this wave to push in. Kasing, he's going to get another death sentence. The box is down. Hyanan's jump does get interrupted, but the Monsoon's channeling. The explosive charge. Flash bomb from Kasing. He needs one more. He gets one more. Kasing and Hyanan, 2v2.
Tristana is so strong once she gets just the BF sword completed. Now adding a pickaxe and a longsword. The fact that your E scales with physical damage is such a big boost for her in the mid game. So when you have these small trades and you manage to get a few auto attacks off and proc that bomb here, it is so tough to trade back with a Tristana. Then add in the fact that you can destroy towers. This is so massive for H2K. If they manage to nullify the fact that they are 4 other members on the side of Giants and just be way stronger than them, they don't even care about Whirlip and what he can do in the top lane. He can split push all he wants. If the rest of the map is just falling, there's nothing Giants will be able to do from that.
2,000 gold down after H2K have secured their second tower and their second kill. And they've got CS advantages for their mid and AD carry. We do see Oduwamnes farming his way up as best he can. But Oduwamnes may play elsewhere on the map. Whirlip is firmly entrenched top until that little glimpse. Although the Pillar of Ice ganks, not the most effective. They can be, but you need a gravity field or you need some chase from Nidalee for that to really work.
Yeah, that's going to be a massive problem for Giants if they keep falling behind. The fact that you have basically no engage, other than your Trundle walking and being like, here's a pillar in your face, that's going to be enough for the rest of my team to follow up. Obviously, again, because they build more towards poking, you won't necessarily need the engage. The trick is you want H2K to be forced to engage on you, because you're sitting back there landing poke onto them. And then you ward the flanks and you make sure they can never get the proper engage. But because you lost that bottom lane so hard now, it will very quickly transition into other lanes, this time the mid lane, and you get pushed further and further back. H2K can start taking up the objectives, and then Giants have to walk out and try and engage.
Godfred, oh, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it! He did it, he's down! Difficult situation for Giants. So, they've lost all of their outer towers. They've given up all 3 of the kills in the game. And we've seen some deep-ish wards from H2K. I think that has to be the next priority. Get inside the jungle, ward it up, and then you can push one of those inner towers. But there's that trading you were talking about up top, the Fisher. Whirlip with the Chomp and the Frozen Domain and Trundle passive. You're going to need some help to push that troll away from his bridge.
That's true. Or you just say, I don't care. about this troll. I don't need to walk over this bridge. I can pick another way. The bot lane, the mid lane. Both lanes are going to be open for them. Look what H2K is going to do here. Once you start pushing and get up the deep vision, Giants are going to be forced to sit under the tier 2 towers. Do you think H2K really care about that tower? You're going to have a Shin ulti coming in on at least Sin, jumping in with an Ahri with Luden's Echo. The first target they go for will die. That's it. Giants on their side, you have 4 extremely squishy members and then Trundle who's stuck in the top lane. That's his only way of being useful. That is in the top lane.
Trundle only gets tanky if he can subjugate a tank. As it stands.
But that tank is going to disappear.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, bye.
Yeah, but even if they do get grouped up, even if they do have to defend and Werlib's Trundle's around, Lulex has only got a Warrior Enchant jungle item for the time being, and Mercreds. He's not particularly tanky. But he's farming himself up, and H2K, the lane swap went in their favor. They farmed themselves up a gold lead, and despite H2K not having the support of the fans at home, they are firmly in control of the first game of this best of 5.
Yeah, and sticking to, both teams honestly sticking to the styles we saw in the summer split. Poke, 1-4 setup from Giants, very mid-game focus from H2K with global map pressure, and then at the same time the ability to deboard and create picks, and also potentially dive later on. You have enough mobility to do it. Otherwise, just keep in mind with Tristana, if Giants is forced back to base, if they rotate too late because they cannot move through their own jungle, look here on the bottom side here. 5 wards being placed from H2K already. Obviously setting up for the next dragon. Spawning in 30 seconds. If Giants want to move in and try and take it, Ahri is going to sit in the bush and you're going to face check straight into a charm and you die. That's the way you always want to play Ahri. Around mid-game objectives with vision control in your advantage. Giants will have to forfeit it.
You talk about mid-game objectives. For Corki, it's getting a Triforce. Werlib's got his Ravenous Hydra completed. We just saw that drop down. The average time for an eye-edge is around 17 minutes and 15 seconds. Kianan picked his up well before that. Double checking my chat logs as you see Kianan Kasing moving in, but that power dip that Tristana traditionally felt in the mid-game is definitely going to be helped out by this very sizable gold lead, and if H2K can use this vision correctly, they may also get their hands on the first dragon.
If Giants moves down to try and contest, they should die. H2K is already in position. Ryu needs to shove this wave and move up to join his team instantly, so they don't have vision of him on the bottom side. You can already see though Giants saying, you know what, we can't face check. There is zero control around this dragon. Just give it up. It's only the first one, 17 minutes in. It's not too bad. They have to make a play though on the other side of the map, but they're moving straight to top here. Odamna, he should expect this to happen.
Yeah, but look at the cost. H2K are grouping in the middle lane, Deficio. They've got fantastic vision.
It's way too late for Giants. Basically, if you know the dragon is spawning and you have to give it up, 30 seconds in advance, you need to start making the move towards the top side. You cannot do it once dragon has already gone down.
Godfred's caught again, and he's down. Kasing and Ryu land the skill shots to get the 4th kill of the game. If you're too late to the party, you simply cannot play. Giants are just falling so far behind. And this is something that H2K used to do very well, but struggled to do effectively towards the end of the summer split. Coordinate themselves in the mid-game to take advantage of their lead. If you go all the way back to that Fnatic loss 5 weeks ago, H2K had a strong lead against Fnatic, but then they started jungle invading, they were on slightly different pages, and the team coordination ended up costing them. This is where we can see whether or not H2K have improved that. Oh, even stole blue buff. Whether or not H2K have improved the coordination to close games out with the lead.
It's been a good start, but a simple start, I feel. There's not been a whole lot of resistance coming in from Giants yet. The 2 kills down the bottom lane was set up by Kasing and Yanin themselves. Obviously adding a bonus, maybe an Odamna joining once. That was the first lead. They got the bot lane tower that allowed them to rotate into mid and take a second tower and really open up the map. And then also the fact that Giants kept Werlib in the bottom lane for such a long time. He really fell behind. So he never got to be the big bullet. That's also why H2K obviously lane swapped.
I think Pepinero's in trouble. Oh, rest in Pepineros. Let's find out. Chaos Storm comes out. The rocket jump goes forward. That teleport was cancelled by Werlib. Pepinero will be able to escape or not. Ryu's looking for more. Got no spirit charges. I didn't even see Frederick going down.
Grump saw everything. It was horrible.
Wow, that's terrible.
Cold blood.
Well played by H2K. distract everyone with Peppy, and Grump and the rest of H2K find Frederick.
Didn't even help, man. Grump is so useless. Anyhow, Whirlip will continue to do what he does best. He will get the tower for himself, but that's been about it so far for Giants. He's going for Blade second as well. We talked about earlier what he could do. It's just a pick from Ryu. This is what happens when you start losing your own jungle. You can never take these shortcuts, you know, down between the lanes where you just rush through your own jungle because it's not yours. You should always expect them to be caught out, and you have to start moving, you know, like from tower to tower, maybe near your own base, take the long routes around. And once you start having the slow rotations, you're always going to be a step too late.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate situation for Giants to be in. They did at least get some of that gold lead back with their third tower of the game. And talking about gold leads, if you look at the stats on your screen, H2K tend to either lose or win hard pretty early on. You can see that 7 games they're behind or 10 games they're ahead at 20. It's nearly the opposite for Giants, and these are the stats analyst desk was talking about as well. Gold deficits at 20 for Giants Gaming.
And it's funny because Giants in the spring split, when they got into the LCS, it was crazy games. Like, we would have 20 kills almost the first 20 minutes going on. It was insanely aggressive ganks from Frederick. It was champions who could snowball lanes from Pepinero and from Whirlip, and he would just try and camp these lanes here. They always gave away a lot of kills as well, but at least there was a lot more action in the early game, and that was how they were trying to win games. Obviously, it didn't work out too well, seeing as they were down in the bottom of the standings. They changed it up, though. Followed the meta, more poke. Whirlip, let's see if he can stay alive. Godford is here.
Subjugate was thrown down onto Shen. He's healing and stealing the tanky stats, but you cannot survive a death sentence. H2K pay the troll toll. And Giants are in trouble. Inner turret will be cracked open, but Pepinero is pushing down bottom. He is deciding to recall. Lulex is looking for more, gets interrupted with the Howling Gale. Tower number 4 falls. And kill number 6 secured for H2K.
Again, for Giants, you have lost the jungle. 100% of the jungle belongs to H2K. So if you start pushing out in your lanes, you should expect them to move up and gank you. Pepe tried, realized he was way too late in the bottom lane though. So another kill for H2K. 6-0, and this is just been very clearly that H2K knew exactly what to do once they got that small lead from the first tower going down the bottom side. Or the second tower again, because they got the lane swap one, and then the kill onto Adri. And they've been in full control. There's been so little Giants could do.
H2K going to have to keep that level of control up. Still have to get the most important objective, which is going to be one of those inhibitors. Or alternatively, a Baron. With the amount of vision and jungle control they have, they could make a play for that and try force Giants' hand. It's an option available to them. But you know, we go all the way back to the beginning of this game, and it was a lane swap scenario. And H2K just have significantly more experience in lane swaps. There are 18 LCS games. They were in a lane swap in 11 of them. Giants were in lane swaps in 5 of their regular season games.
H2K was known for their lane swaps.
Yes. They were famous for them until you cursed them on the Telestrator. Adri gets caught with a death sentence. Walking blind into a jungle where an H2K flag has been waving for 10 minutes. And you cannot afford to make that mistake. I'll say it for you, Deficio. It's not Giants jungle anymore.
It's not. It's not been for the last 10 minutes almost. H2K though, they have vision around Baron. Don't really have to risk it. Again, you are doing more than fine, just keep creating picks left and right. It also looks even worse for Giants because they're running with a lot of poke. And once you start falling behind this poke here, you never get the chance to set up and start, you know, landing these long-range shots here because there's wards behind you, there's flank options coming in, and you can never save the group and use it. So poke always looks extremely weak if it falls behind in the early game. Now let's see, Ryu.
He's chasing, may not even need it. That's a good flash
beautiful.
Over the taunt. Cleanse comes out, but it won't be enough. Ryu gets the kill with the Lost Spirit Rush.
So, we might as well say it already. Ryu in the spring split had a fairly, I wouldn't say poor performance in the regular split, but he had a fairly boring performance. He didn't do anything.
Here's a good word, innocuous.
He was just there, Trevor.
Yes.
He was part of the team, he was there. Then we got into playoffs, and Ryu said, you know what? I want to go to Worlds. And he started killing people left and right. He got the most solo kills of any mid laner, any player in the EU LCS in the playoffs. started winning his lanes. We were like, what's going on here? Rio is looking super strong. Now we go back again. We look at the regular split. It's been okay, it's been better for Rio, but still not really a top performance. Not what he can do. First game of playoffs, 5-0 Ari, won his lane against the Victor for Pipinero. A lane he has lost before. And currently, Ryu is once again saying, I want to go to Worlds. I want revenge.
I distinctly remember Ryu's Ari against Giants last time. What was his final score? 14-0?
14-0, I believe.
Not bad. Not bad, if we do say so.
Maybe he just really hates Giants.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
But, you know, if you were watching from the beginning and we heard those video clips, Audrey actually had a quote in one of our very first video features saying that despite the fact they've lost to H2K, it actually gives Giants more experience than H2K get from beating Giants. Like, okay, maybe. But it also means at 7-0, H2K know exactly how to beat you.
Yes.
And you cannot play the same 1-4 strategy that you have been playing all summer without any upgrades and expect to win.
Basically what H2K did for game 1, they said, okay, let's play the composition and the style we have used all split long, because it was good enough to beat Giants the other times we faced them, so let's just do it again for game 1, focus the same people, play around the same stuff, and see if it works. If it works, do it the same for game 2. There's no reason to change it if it has worked so many times already versus one team. So it's up to Giants to be able to adapt or go in and say what were the mistakes.
Oh, Pepe, he's going to be down. Stand United's being channeled. Oduwande's looking for the taunt. Summon a heal will keep Godfred alive for a second longer before the key strike secures it. The rest of H2K trying to get in from the side. That's a ward dash. The kick will not get connected. Frederick's in trouble, but he will get bounced into the flay. The flash death sentence just goes wide. Kasing will let it slide, because that first pick Thresh is doing wonders for H2K, as is the Shen. For Giants, their first rotation of Corki Nidalee is a combined 0-5 at this point.
Don't even want to blame it on the picks. Too many times in the early game did we see H2K manage to get kills on the bottom lane. Adri was stuck in situations where he felt like he had to try and push out waves, he then got ganked, Shen came in, Kasing came in, they got the kills, they got the towers. That started the whole snowball for H2K. And then of course Ryu winning that mid lane for himself. He's only been a record more kills, 27 minutes, yeah?
Well, all of those kills and control led to a 27-minute Baron that was clean and uncontested. There is one inner turret lane tower remaining. I said turret
Inner
tower.
turret lane
Thank you.
tower remaining.
There's one Tier 2 tower remaining. Lulex may be able to get away with his life if Kasing can get in range. We did see the locket being thrown down, but the flank from Ryu is on. Spirit Rush is going to be chasing Willib. Wow, gets insta-gibbed. And Hyun is looking for more blood. Godfred will try to deny the kill credit. Has there been enough time? Tower Laser is trading. Hyun is actually trying to recall, but I don't think he'll get there in time. And Godfred will be able to suicide. But it's just, what were you doing there in the first place? Down 8k gold, trying to get some vision, and then losing 2 lives.
I mean, at this point here, you gotta try something. And you try maybe the surprise, see if you can get a pick on Lulex in there. They almost got him down. Otherwise, what you do as a team in a best out of 5 situation, when you have such a poor first game where there's such a clear difference, you kind of stop thinking about the current game and talk about what went wrong. I mean, what's going to happen next game? They're on red side again for game 2, so they can say, was it the pick and ban phase? Or were we happy enough with the picks? It was more we made a few key mistakes in the early game. You sit and talk through all that stuff here, and you make sure for the next game that the same mistakes won't happen. Because right now, the chance of you coming back is so low. It's better to be more ready for next game.
So, wave clear is relatively strong with Giants, but they can't defend multiple waves. Look, middle inhibitor turret almost down. Death Sentence connects. Kasing follows up with a flay. Tower will fall shortly, as does Whirlip. Tower goes down as a flash away from Pipinero. Will not keep him alive. Frederick follows suit. H2K have got the tower, have got the inhibitor. They've got some minions conga lining in, and this could be the first game in the series. H2K did not give up a single death in 30 minutes. And they will be taking down Giants Nexus. 8-0 in the last few times they've played. They even get Audrey on the fountain. domination
Yeah,
from the number 3 seed.
this completely destroys your confidence. You're preparing for this best out of 5 in 2 weeks. You had the plan ready. Feel like this is what we're gonna do in game 1. We believe this is the best we can do. Or well, at least this is the first composition we want to show. And 30 minutes later,
Yeah.
you didn't even get a single kill.
H2K really took advantage of the lead they garnered from the lane swap. It was fairly small, but they kept chipping away, and eventually Giants couldn't do anything. Is this indicative of how this rest of the series is going to go, or do you think this is just quarterfinal nerves, game 1?
I feel like we've seen this before between these two teams. Last time again they faced each other, it was the same kind of game. 32 minutes, completely one-sided on the side of H2K. Giants have to step up that early to mid-game.
They have to change it around. We're going to head over to the analyst desk to take a look at just how decisive H2K's game 1 victory was.
Thank you so much, guys. Quite decisive, the first zero-death game of the split, and it's in the first game of the quarterfinals for H2K. If there were any doubts about how they were doing, especially in preparation and against Giants, in game 1, there was nothing Giants can do.
Nothing at all by the looks of it. I mean, even from coming out of picks and bans, looking at it, just Giants didn't seem to really have their minds in the right place.
Yep.
When you look at what they drafted, how their game plan was going for the game against a team like H2K, very, very risky draft.
Yeah, this is what we have to start with, obviously. Let's have a look at the pick and bans of this first match here. And what I want to highlight is what H2K did immediately. They went for Jax and Morgana bans, staple bans against Giants. That's normal. Then there was a lot of uproar on Twitter, you know, why are you banning Elise on blue side? Elise, for people that don't know, is considered tier 1 in the current patch by many people, and they're wondering why are we banning Elise first? That's because the Thresh pick. They want to just take that away from Godfrey and put him on a passive support, and look at the lineup that Giants ended up drafting. 0 engage.
Yep.
Double disengage with Janna and Trundle, some poke, but if you fall behind, which you generally do, if you're Giants, you know, 12 out of 19 games, they do fall behind. You play against a better strategic team that ended up lane swapping on you, that team as well picked a lot of pick. Ari can pick people off. Shen has CC. We have Kasing. Later we might even have a montage of all his hooks because he was on fire. Luix said, okay, I can deal with any jungler except Elise. Just get me Elise in. I will put on the aggression. And I really like that mentality. And now we can take down the pick and ban graphic already. I just like the mentality of a team that comes into in the first game of a best of 5 series and saying, we're going to play aggressive.
Yep.
We're just going to come out swinging. We're going to make something happen. And then we'll see how we adapt. And I think that was the right approach by H2K.
And H2K certainly came out with a game plan and with somewhat of an aggressive game plan when it comes to the lane swap that they looked for. You know, it was very smart, swapping away, just making sure that, you know, you can get Thresh to roam out easier from the lane. You know, Tristan's going to push the towers a lot more easily than the Corki as well in the early game. And at that point, the Trundle's already behind. From there, you get yourself a slightly easier start to the game. And H2K, as soon as they ended up back in the 2v2, get the kill, take the turret, roam across the map. And Giants just looked like they were second fiddle in this game. Never looked like they could keep up.
Yeah, our feature matchup was the top lane because of the lane swaps was irrelevant. And the mid lane, which we were looking at as well, Ryu just single-handedly said, I don't need anyone's help. I'm just going to do this. Ari versus Victor. A lot of individual quality, I think, from the side of H2K showing in individual moves as well. For instance, Kasing, he has been revered for his Thresh, and it was very, very instrumental in this game once again.
I just like the confidence he was playing with, and as we can see right here, you know, he's waiting for Audrey gets the box out, so even if Audrey escapes, he has to go through that, gets slowed, and this allows him just enough time to flash afterwards. That combo could have technically on paper been executed slightly better, but the fact is, Audrey's dead at the end of it, and that's it. And Kasing has been instrumental on that Thresh, and we will likely see perhaps a ban from Giants on that Thresh, allowing a possible first pick at least next game. But just what struck me the most is how he was playing. He was throwing fake lanterns at least 2 times in a game, perhaps even 3, where he would just throw them over a wall, walk to the other side and say, like, somebody's coming with me, and then Giants are going like, I see one guy here, one guy here. I just saw the jungle somewhere else. There can't be anybody there, but when you're playing on LAN, when you're playing offline, you still respect your opponents enough. So Kasing, he's confident in his plays. Giants, they're not.
Yeah, Kasing exuding the confidence, which I think we talked so much about the Kasing effect, and also it was Kasing up here that said we were in trouble after that loss versus Fnatic. I think this will be instrumental, the fact that he feels incredibly confident and everything is working to set up for the rest of the series. On the side of Giants, though, they do have a fair bit of experience now already in Best of 5 series, even fighting for their lives in some instances. So how good are the chances that they can turn it around? I think number 1, revisit your composition.
Completely revisit the composition. With regards to the fact that I think the casters, Martin and Trevor, they were talking about how, you know, normally you'd expect a team to prepare for game 1. The other thing a team will prepare for is the worst case scenario. Is if they do have something that they can completely change everything up, they may be able to look to do that. But certainly, even from what is their supposedly most prepared strategy, a lot of things have to change. And I think the Thresh ban has to be the start.
Yeah, or just a different approach to the game. They're on red side again, so things will get mirrored or get repeated again, but with slight nuances shifted. And then this is where the mind game of pick and bans comes in. Who's going to change their ban first? Because Giants, they still have the last ban, so they can force H2K to ban the same things. Perhaps they can drop the Sivir though for the Thresh ban and just find a different lane, and then just pick more aggressively. Pick some hard CC. It's easier to play the game when you can lock opponents down, else it's doable, but it's incredibly hard, and you have to be the better strategic team in terms of vision, in terms of positioning, in terms of grouping up and sieging. Because if Giants got ahead with this composition, yes, they could have sieged and poked, but it's incredibly hard to get ahead.
Yeah, and they know, they have experience of not being ahead in that many games in the last couple of weeks and the entire split in general. Maybe going for something else, Giants, in the next one. We're one game down, but there's plenty more to go as Giants look to tie it up against H2K when we return. But before we take a break, we'll get a closer look at Werlip and how he came onto the scene with a fan club already in tow.
Pues yo empecé a jugar al LoL porque jugaba mi hermano, hablamos de la beta, el principio del juego y tal, y él me decía, juega Jorge, juega. Yo la verdad no quería, él insistía. Y dije, no, el LoL la verdad es que es divertido, entonces ahí fue ya un vicio.
Ey, Vicente.
Buenas, tío. Te saludo en inglés.
Venga, solo en inglés.
Hey, hello, Werlip. Buenas.
Por fin estamos todos.
Pues yo tengo 11 hermanos, tengo muchísimos primos, todos han jugado siempre a juegos.
A ver, yo voy a top, ¿no? Pues yo quiero ir abajo, en verdad, tío.
Yo quiero ir abajo.
Vamos tú y yo, Chesco.
Vale.
Entonces me viene mucho de familia, es decir, desde 8 años, 7, he jugado a juegos viendo a ellos cómo jugaban.
¡Un incauto!
¡Qué bueno es el tío ese!
¡Chesco, gancho! Espera, tío, Chesco, está reportado, Chesco.
Pues hay muchas veces, ¿no?, que nos reunimos, por ejemplo, mis hermanos con mis primos, o me voy a casa de mis primos y tal, y que vamos a lo mejor una tarde o una noche en casa de uno, y vamos a ir 10 primos y una mini gaming house, por así decirlo.
Ahora! Chesco, yo flasheo. O este, qué buena, tío. Mío.
Lo único que hace cuando estás tu día te lo comes.
Pues yo el primer viaje que hice a un evento pues fue en Barcelona, me tuvo que acompañar mi hermano y era como una experiencia, nosotros dos íbamos ahí la primera vez pues súper emocionados y tal, le lo veía como un hobby porque no tenía nivel ni de lejos, no me imaginaba que en 2 años íbamos a estar aquí.
And Giants secure the 10th spot in the LCS.
Cuando entramos a la LCS hubo como una reunión en la casa, como toda la familia reunida, todo el mundo preguntaba, al final vimos que había mucho más pros que contras y que había que aprovechar la oportunidad. Si tú rechazas, es como estás rechazando una oportunidad que no puede tener casi nadie.
Hay que abrirse a nuevas posibilidades y esto es una oportunidad única. Él ha apostado por hacer lo que le guste, para mí eso es lo mejor que puede hacer.
Mi madre en ese sentido es muy liberal, es decir, ella no es la típica madre que siempre te pone normas, siempre te exige y tal, en el caso de que tú sigas con tu estudio muy bien y que tú te hagas tu vida social y tal. Ella, siempre que tú llevas una vida sana, tú con tu vida puedes hacer más o menos lo que tú quieras. Entonces ella siempre me ha apoyado y me ha dicho que si yo soy feliz, que ella es feliz.
¡Oh, Jorge! ¡Cata!
Dios, qué paliza.
Siempre se reúnen para ver los partidos. Siempre andan fotos en el WhatsApp de Family, todos juntos. Por ejemplo, mi hermano mayor tiene 2 hijas pequeñas y siempre andan selfie con las dos. Si ganamos, un selfie feliz. Si perdemos, un selfie triste. Ganamos, pierdas, ves que te apoyan.
¡Se han rendido!
¡No! ¡Flash, corre! Leye, no tenía miedo. He visto a Pedro. Bueno, yo voy a dejar ya.
Tú también.
Venga.
Venga, chavales. Nos vemos.
Venga, yo.